So I'll wait till you got her on the phone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
It's like we're
fine to
live. Are we live?
I'll double check with Kevin. Will you check with Kevin and make sure we're live? One of you? Yeah, okay. I know, sometimes, just double check it for me.
Hi Angie, we're ready to get started. All right, thanks.
Ready? I call this meeting to order and would welcome everybody that's here in person and those that are watching by way of streaming on the internet. We welcome you here. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by Amy Boyd.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Amy. Appreciate that. Okay, first on the agenda is approve and amend the agenda. Get that up here. Is there an amendment to the agenda? Okay,
Oh, wait, there is an addendum. We have emergency school closure resolution,
That we added today.
the span
Into there.
textbook adoption.
okay,
memo.
do I need to approve that right now?
Bill, you just need a motion here to approve.
Okay.
with the-
I'd ask for a motion to approve the agenda with the addendum.
I move that we approve the agenda with the attached addendum.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that motion passed. Next, can you hear me okay? I feel like I'm talking to myself. Okay, next is to approve the minutes, the executive session, student disciplinary, January 4th, board work session, January 10th, executive session, personnel matters, January 10th, regular board meeting, January 17th, executive session, student discipline, January 18th, and special meeting, review architectural proposal and qualifications, January 24th. Is there a motion?
I move that we approve the minutes as amended.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passed. Next is to approve the consent agenda, authorize payment of claims, approve supplemental financial information, approve human resource activity, and approve a consent agenda. Is there a motion?
I hereby move that the board approve the consent agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second
Any discussion? All in favor?
it. Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion passed. Okay, next is self-explanatory reports. Do I need to read through those?
Yes, please.
Okay, we've got Idaho General Food Revenue Report, Food Service Free and Reduced Meal Eligibility Report, Bus Ridership Report, Student Enrollment Report, and Student Supervision Report. And that's just informational, and it's on the website. We're gonna do away with recognitions, is that right?
Correct. We'll move them all to next month, Mr.
Okay.
Chair.
Media report, roadmap. Okay, that moves us to public hearing.
Or is Courtney going to do hers?
No.
Media?
That will be,
That one's after, so we have the recognition, public comment, and then the public hearing, or is it the other way around?
Ms. Clark's right. So we have
Okay.
media report
Gotcha.
first. We would have had student representatives, but
Yeah.
we excused them tonight.
Okay, so
So
let's
she has-
return the time over to Courtney Fisher for a media report.
Okay, I have just a few things to report to you tonight. In your addendum is the Media and Community Relations Report, and that includes links to articles of interest from January 16th through February 7th. Headlines of interest include the K-12 budget, lots of legislative news coming out right now, including the Idaho Launch Program, which is Governor Little's scholarship bill. Things like the Blaine Amendment repeal and the Education Savings Account bill. The Mayor's Million Minute Marathon Reading Challenge began in February, so that's ongoing right now at our schools. And then, of course, our 2023 supplemental levy renewal. The rest of the stats are pretty self-explanatory. I will just point out on the website at the bottom of that page, those top hits include home, calendar, and then we did, you may remember the communication that we did for a report of threats that we were getting that did receive 3,126 views on that page. So I look at that as getting the message out timely and responsive to that issue. As far as community relations, we do have our supplemental levy renewal presentations going on right now. In your packet, there's an updated levy renewal fact sheet. There were some figures that were updated and corrected in that table on the second page. So you have the most current that has been also updated on our website and all of our presentation materials moving forward. We do have our levy video completed, and we've been showing that at the presentations that have that AV technical capability. It's only 1 minute and 47 seconds, so we like to kick off the presentations with that video. It's a dynamic way to share that information. We've been doing Infinite Campus social media and website communications. So the video is posted to social media, as is the link to the website page that houses that fact sheet and as well as all that information. As of today, 29 presentations have been completed out of, it says 52 on your sheet, but that has been updated to 53 as of today. And then in addition to some of those staff and PTO and PTA presentations, we have presented to the Pocatello Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors, and it's important to note that that Board of Directors did pass a motion to support the levy, which they usually do, and so that's Matt Hunter, the Executive Director, will be writing a letter of support for us to be published in the paper at a later date. We've presented to key communicators, the League of Women Voters, Centennial Rotary Club, and Chamber local issues, and then I received a call with an invitation for a new organization that we have not presented to previously, which is the Southeast Idaho Republican Women, which will happen tomorrow. And then I just added Pocatello Rotary Club today for the 24th. So Ms. Clark, I noticed that you were on there, so you want to note that date. I think it's February 23rd. It's a Thursday at noon. And I'll be speaking to you about who will be giving that presentation. And then the presentation to the Chamber's local issues last Friday included a presentation, an update about plans for PV Tech. It was really well attended and lots of great questions. Ms. Clark joined us for that presentation. So just wanted to provide you with that community update.
Thank you.
And that's all I have for you tonight.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, Ms. Fisher, you've been tuned in to the Senate Ed Committee
Yes, I
meeting?
have since
If you
3
wouldn't
o'clock.
mind giving the board just what you know at this point.
Sure.
that'd be
So
great.
Senator Nichols presented along with Senator Lenny at the hearing today for Senate Bill 1038, which is the Education Savings Account bill. They gave a presentation where I'll update you later. There was some factual errors in that presentation. However, then they went into public testimony, and it was pretty evenly split between testimony for and against. They were recessing as of about 5:15 until 5:30, and then they were planning to go till 6 tonight, and then I believe they'll recess again and encourage more testimony tomorrow and carry that on. There was in-person testimony and video remote testimony as well.
Thank you.
Am I up next as well? No?
Oh, yep, you've got the road.
Okay, and then in your packet is the roadmap, which we had on the calendar to review in February. There have been no changes to the roadmap, and so we, unless there's any discussion or direction to change anything in that, it will stand as is published currently. And that continues to be posted on our website, as is guidance from the State Department.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
We thought that was going to conclude in August, that would be our last reporting. But because they extended the dates of the ESSER spending, we will need to report out until that expires, which will be September of '24, Jonathan?
25, I think.
25.
Yeah, 25.
So you will see that a few more times. So it's pretty much February and August is when we'll bring it back to you, 6-month review.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, presentation for proposed new and increased fees. Jonathan Balls.
Okay, this, inside your packet, this is actually the second time you've seen this. Again, we presented this in January, and all these fees have been noted in the Idaho State Journal per code. Again, we're doing this because the fees are raised above the threshold. I always thought 10%. Is it 5%?
I believe it's fine.
5%, yep. Is it any fee that goes above 5% increase has to have a hearing and noticed and so forth. And so as we wanted to renew several of these rental fees, that is what has been published. Again, in front of you is just as a reminder, this is kind of a new structure, whereas the current fees all in black are the same for any category. And so you'll see those have been all the same, but we felt it necessary and prudent going forward to kind of split into different categories on the type of group that is renting our facilities. And you'll see those in Category 1, Category 2, and Category 3. Obviously, the ones in red are the proposed fees for the various locations on the left-hand side of the column there, from inside of our building to our outdoor facilities and so forth. Any thoughts or any questions on these proposed fees?
How long has it been since we increased these in the last?
Excellent question. It's definitely been longer since I've been here. So 2, 3, long time.
Very
several
long time,
years.
even beyond
Yeah.
my recollection.
Yeah, so this
That's what I
is,
was thinking, I couldn't remember.
Yes.
correct.
Mhm.
We've, yeah, exactly. And we've had a lot of great facility improvements and so forth. And so obviously this is, we patterned this after some other school districts that have very successful rental programs. And again, we're not here to make money off of our taxpayers. It's just basically to cover the costs of these facilities for utilities, custodial, and even put into for some maintenance that might happen because they're used so much there.
And to update as they wear out and get old and stuff.
Correct, absolutely.
Perfect.
So will this be published on the website that people can download, or where does this then?
Correct. This will be available. We are looking at some software that will it will guide us. So you identify yourself by logging in and what organization that you are affiliated with, and then it will guide you into the fee structure there. For everybody, it would, but yes, this will be published on the website. And if anybody looks normal without knowing that we're going to publish the fees of Category 3, assuming that they're for-profit, and then if you identify yourself as, nope, I'm a
Nonprofit.
a nonprofit, thank you, or somebody that's identified with the Pocatello Chubbuck School District, then the rates would change accordingly. So, and we're just barely starting doing demos for that. Go ahead.
So not to call anybody out, but
Please.
we need to fix discretion is spelled
Oh,
incorrectly.
heavens.
Page 3.
Thank you.
Oh, yes, there it is.
Where?
Pen and me just can't help it.
No, that's great. Thank you.
That's why I'm like, so are we publishing this?
We need to make sure it's.
Yeah, the
Tell
fourth
me-
bullet point down there at the bottom. or
Discretion on
asterisk.
the very last
on the
bullet.
third page?
On page 3.
Okay. This, yeah, right there. Okay, thank you very much. I apologize for that.
Glad I could help.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Please,
Okay, any
that's
questions?
all I had. So again, this is before you for approval this evening.
Okay. So at this time, I'll recess this meeting and convene a public hearing meeting. So do we have any public that wants to respond to this?
Looked like it.
Okay, I guess then we'll close the hearing and reconvene the regular meeting and consider adopting the new and increased fees. Is there a motion?
I hereby move that the board adopt the new and increased fees per the enclosed resolution as if read into the minutes.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Is there a discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passed. Okay, so next we'll go to K-5 ELA material adoption, and that will be presented by, Amy Bowie.
Good evening. So I have a few agenda items. The first one is just an update for information on the K-5 ELA adoption, and it's going really well. So you have included in your packet the minutes from January. That was our first meeting, January 12th, with the adoption committee, the parents and the educators side of that. And at our first meeting, we did the norms. We talked about the process, what the difference, what the statute was, the difference between the advisory team and the adoption committee, what everyone's role would be, how we would work collaboratively, and it went really well. The parents were very receptive. They were on board. They were eager to get their hands on the materials. And then last week, we had, on Thursday, a really long day until 8:30 p.m., we had publisher presentations to the teachers, the advisory team during the day, and we made those links available to the parents, and they were really interested in that. And then there was a 35-minute presentation to the adoption committee in the evening, and our parents asked really good questions. They were very involved. We did have an optional night last night. Was that just last night? The week's blurring together with the snow day. We had an optional night available for parents to come if they had additional questions, and most of them just said, gosh, we have all of these presentations we can view. We have a lot of materials, and we just need more time with the materials. So they opted to stay home and go through their materials last night, and we'll have one more optional meeting next week for them. But it's going really well. And I would say my favorite part of all adoption, but this one in particular, is the dialogue that surrounds not just with the parents, but with the teachers. What's important? What do we value? What do we agree on? What do we disagree on? And it's just really valuable, especially as that leads into, once we adopt a curriculum, as that leads into unit development and using the resource to build units. And it's just, I will share this. A group of us were able to go around to the instructional camps as the teachers were discussing each of the 3 programs, and overwhelmingly, I just walked away. And there was I heard people who liked all 3 programs, right? I heard dialogue about the benefits, the strengths and weaknesses of all 3 programs. However, I just walked away, and I know AJ would attest to this, and Kathy, and those of us that went out and about, just how invested they are in making sure they do the very best that they can to choose a good curriculum and then take that curriculum and make good units. And you can just see they're really committed to their learners. Same with the parents. So it's been...
Could you explain instructional camp?
Yes, I'd
What
love
is
to.
that?
Yeah, so instructional camps happen once a month.
Okay.
And it's all the first, so I'll talk about the elementary instructional camps just because that's relevant. So all the first grade teachers meet it's optional. A lot of the first grade teachers meet together at a certain school, and during an adoption, they're talking about the materials. But if it weren't an adoption, they're talking about aligning curriculum, what's working, what's not, assessments, adapting assessments, just cross-district collaboration at its finest. If you ever want to visit an instructional camp,
Yeah.
let me know. I would love to, I would love to take it there. And we have some at the high school levels that are really functional. I loved, as a high school English teacher, I loved instructional camp.
Is it, and it's an evening thing, one time or once?
One time a month, they get compensated, but it's optional. Not all teachers participate, but quite a few do. And
Yeah, I'd love to attend.
yeah, okay, super. Okay, so then moving on to our revised textbook adoption item. So included in the packet is revised procedure 6402P, textbook adoption. We knew this was going to be a little bit of a learning process once we kind of made the procedure and went through with it. So the change to the procedure, here's what the change would do. It would allow administration to modify the textbook adoption committee process with board approval, with the exception that 50% of any committee will be made up of parents who are not educators or trustees, because that's statute. The board will be asked to approve the revision under action items. So ultimately, here's what you need to understand. So we have major adoptions like K-5 ELA, or basically any K-5 adoption, math, social studies, science. Those are major adoptions that affect a lot of teachers, a lot of students. As you get into the secondary level, there'll be some smaller adoptions that include maybe humanities or electives, and maybe just sometimes one school. And so to go through, we've seen what this process looks like, right? Mm-hmm. To go through that entire process extensively, it doesn't make sense, truthfully, for a smaller scale textbook adoption. And you'll have an example of one of those tonight. So that's the only, we just wanted to provide in that procedure, just if board approved, that a smaller scale adoption might look a little different, but we would still obviously comply with state statute. We'd
you
still
go
have the
ahead,
committee.
Mrs. Bowie, and talk about this example of
Go
the
straight
Spanish,
into
and then
Spanish?
bring it back around
I think it'll
and tie it
really
together
clear.
for
I
us.
agree.
Thank
I'm
you.
gonna take my jacket off. Okay, so here's, I'm kind of glad it worked out this way, that we actually had an example of something that might look a little different. So I gave you, if you look into the Spanish adoption proposal, this is for Spanish 1 and Spanish 2. And I wanted to give you the background information to consider. So Spanish is offered at all 3 comprehensive high schools, and there are typically 1 to 2 Spanish teachers at each school. Spanish teachers went through an adoption process in 2017, and so their current Spanish adoption is effective through this school year. So we've got to do something for next school year with Spanish 1 and 2. The current program for Spanish 1 and 2 is, I'm so glad there are no Spanish teachers here, Avancemos, one of those. Tomato. The current program is Avancemos through HMH, Houghton Mifflin. Avancemos will be retired in June of 2024, and HMH will no longer offer world languages at all. So back in 2017, the second choice of that committee and those teachers was De Subre through Vista Higher Learning. That was the second choice for Spanish 1 and Spanish 2. Currently, this is important, our Spanish dual enrollment classes at all 3 high schools are using a program through that publisher, Vista Higher Learning, called Panorama. This program is determined, but when you're talking dual enrollment, the university chooses the text, okay? So they're using Panorama through Vista Higher Learning for dual enrollment. And like I said, that's chosen through Idaho State. So this is what the teachers are telling me. This is their feedback, the Spanish teachers. They do not have an instructional camp, but they work closely together through cross-district PLCs. And here's their feedback. Even before they found out that Avancemos was being retired, they noticed the advantages of the Vista Higher Learning program that's being used with their dual enrollment students. They named things like it's more user-friendly for technology for their learners, it's more accessible, they can get to it on their phones, it's just user-friendly for their students. They also really liked the learning progressions of that program. They feel strongly that DeSubre, which is a Vista Higher Learning program, would better prepare their students for and more directly align with the Vista program they're using for dual enrollment. So they really feel that if they used Vista, a program from the same publisher, it would align better and just Spanish 1, Spanish 2, dual enrollment. They've seen and discussed the benefits of aligning the curriculum 9-12. They're concerned that a full-scale adoption process at this point, when they feel really strongly that they go with the SUBRE, would take time away from student instruction, right? Their instructional time. So I listened to them. We discussed it. We've considered, the scale of this adoption. And so here would be the proposal for this adoption. The advisory team component would be waived for this adoption. We don't need an advisory team, and we can just combine that into just an adoption committee. The administration will convene a group of 3 Spanish teachers and 3 parents to serve as the adoption committee and listen to a publisher presentation about the DeSubre Vista Higher Learning Program. Obviously, that would have to be an open meeting per state statute. The parents would be selected through collaboration between building principals and curriculum department as authorized by the board. The rationale for that is our high school principals will know pretty clearly, like if they have parents who are particularly invested in the foreign language program. And so they could just recommend those. A 4th parent would be added if Paul, our board member, would like to serve on this adoption committee. He's more than welcome. We would just need to add a 4th parent, because remember, a board member per statute counts as on the educator side, which that wouldn't be a problem. So then the DeSubre materials will be made available to the committee members and community members to view at the district office, and the adoption committee would advise the board on selection of Spanish materials at a future board meeting. So the administrative recommendation on this proposal is that the administration's requesting permission from the board to modify the textbook adoption process as outlined in Procedure 6402P, with the exception that 50% of the committee shall be parents as outlined in the Idaho Code. So you can kind of see a Spanish adoption looks different from a K-5 ELA adoption, especially given all of the details they're currently already using, something that they know works and it's been vetted through a university and all of those. That's the rationale.
I guess my only question is how, or at least maybe some of the wording is, how do you make this is going to be the exception and not the rule? Because right now it seems pretty much, you could go with this for everything moving forward.
Well, I think the board needs to, I think the way we've written it is the board would need to approve. And we've talked
Each time. Yeah.
we would change the procedure, but each time we were going to we weren't going to do the full scale, that would come through you at this point, unless for down the road we come up with some way, which we've been thinking about. Is there some way to list out? It's kind of difficult. Here are all the major adoptions: math, English, science, social studies, social emotional at the elementary, and then leave this open for electives, humanities. And we may work on we've been playing around with
Graduated scale, something of that nature is what we've been discussing.
We've been rolling that around in our head. So but I'd be more than happy to bring it every time to you and just say, hey, we want to use the smaller scale for this one. But there may just for time and
Yeah, we do have to be, but
reasonability.
one thing I was gonna ask about is, when it says parents will be selected, I would want to be sure that most parents are not gonna be interested in elective stuff. But I still think that needs to go out as an invitation
Right.
to them and alert them, this is going on. It is open meeting, you're welcome to come. Whether, if they want to volunteer, they can, but probably nobody will. They'll probably just be these people that are selected, but I would want that to be added. What do you guys?
Yeah, so that it doesn't feel like this is just we're just going through the motions to tick off the box that, this is what
I
the
would
legislator said, okay, we pulled in a
Right.
couple parents that we know, and then we'll just.
So one of the things that was, so you would want to go back to an application and the school board should, because I'm going to say that was pretty time consuming.
Public? That, you know, and maybe a first come, first serve?
Just an announcement from even at the building principal, we're looking for, if you're interested, will you let us know? And then the building principal, between the building,
And then just do this procedure that you already have.
just as long as there's an announcement. Instead of them just choosing one,
Right.
you want it to go out in some sort of memo or email. Okay, okay.
Because I want to make sure that always we're transparent. Hey,
Okay.
Adoption, and then the rest of this is fine, they can
Yeah.
still be selected, via principal.
You just want it to be transparent.
Yeah, I just think it needs
That's
to be
fair.
announced, and if they want to, they can let the principals know.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're not chosen, they just need to make sure that, we just need to make sure that they get the information.
About the open meeting.
Please come and here are the dates.
Mhm.
Because we want everybody who's interested to be there, because they're the ones that we can potentially have support from
Right.
or not support. If they feel like they've been left out, then I think that's a way to have anti.
Right. And I thought,
sentiment.
and going back to the K-5 ELA adoption, I think that went really well, and we made sure, and we've even had a couple of parents show up and attend those open meetings, so I think
Yeah,
that transparency is important, I would agree.
yeah.
Okay, so, my final agenda item is alternate route to graduation, and there's, if you look at the addendum memo, because there was one added we just went from 5 to 6. So 6 learners at New Horizons High School are working towards the completion of their alternate route to graduation in place of the ISAT requirement for graduation in ELA, math, and/or science. The school administrator signed off that these learners will complete the alternate route, and the learners' forms are filed in the curriculum department. So we would just request that the board approve the alternate route to graduation request for these learners pending successful completion of their coursework. Okay, those are my agenda items. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bowie, appreciate it.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay, next is the Head Start program. We'll be looking at A.J. Watson.
Nope, there's no, I don't even see a wire going up.
Like it's plugged in. I can sit for this one, although it's quick. Good evening, board members. I just have a Head Start update for you, and you have the information in your packet as well. As of January 31st, there are now 137 learners enrolled, so they're up to 75%. They were able to open that new classroom in January. So 7 of the 10 classrooms are in session. They still have a goal to try and get the remaining classrooms open, but coming down to staffing and if they can get a couple more teachers before the end of the year. So that's their goal.
As far as, because I know there are several teachers, when we were there, that they mentioned that they want to come back, they just are, not because of the vaccine requirement, are they going to be able to come back?
They don't know. It's still, they haven't received any final rule on that portion of it yet, and they haven't heard that it's coming out. So for now, no, it is. Would like to and still are unable to because of that final rule. So, and they haven't given any indication of when that will take place. They currently have 19 open positions still, and as we talked about, looking to hire those. They have them open, but we're getting closer and closer towards maybe springtime and the end of the year, so hopefully maybe looking into next year they can work on some of those positions as well. They did have, you have in your report a non-compliance finding. This happened in October, and they were just received information from the Office of Head Start in regards to the area supervision. It was reported. It was self-reported. They had a learner that didn't come in with the rest of the class, and they didn't count it and was left outside. The learner was left outside for about 4 minutes, and so when they have anything, I think the limit was 3 minutes that they're left unsupervised, that they have to report that. They were in an enclosed playground area. There was no safety. The learner was just out there playing and didn't line up with everyone else, and they miscounted, and so they reported it. They're working on an action plan to make sure that they accurately double-check numbers and working through the Office of Head Start on that. So that's the non-compliance piece. And they are also in the process and received information about an upcoming monitoring review. This is a large-scale review. I believe it happens every 5 years with Head Start. They have individuals that come in and are here for a week and go through basically everything in the Head Start program to review it, and it involves people from the district office, everyone from the Head Start Policy Council, and it will also include board members as well. So we'll be reaching out to you and talking about, they have a 1 hour time where they like to meet with the board members. I think if 2 of you were there, that would be great and sufficient. Whoever would like to come is always welcome. You could all be there, but the date and information will be determined based on your availability and when they can meet with you as well. So more will be coming about in regards to that. And that concludes my report, unless you have any additional questions. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it. Okay, early graduation request by,
I'm gonna pinch hit on that one,
okay.
Mr. Chairman. Oh, do you have it ready?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Thanks, all right.
You bet. I was going to cover some for Sue tonight. So at Century, we got quite a few kids that, and this is very standard at this time of the year, at the end of the second trimester. Olive Garden opened up, you know, so we need some workers out there. Work and save for college, and if you haven't eaten there, it's awesome. But we have 28 total at Century High School, 12 at Highland High School, and 5 at Pocatello High School currently that would like to, at the end of the trimester, graduate early. Any questions? And I believe I'm next, and that's why I came up. Sorry, Dr. Allen. The out-of-state and overnight travel requests, we do have a few here in the next few months. The one that was added that typically isn't standard, I just want to bring your attention to, is the Pocatello High School band would love to go to state boys basketball if they make it to state. Right now they're 21-1, so I anticipate that happening. What's that? They typically do, but they don't stay overnight.
Oh, okay.
And so this is overnight, and so that's why it has to come in front of the board, yeah. Does that make sense? And then we have Pocatello High School baseball, first time that they're going to this tournament in Phoenix. They are fundraising fully for that. And then Mr. Eric Pankow, CTE, is doing a trip with his class. I believe it's like a fishing game class. I don't remember the complete title there. Does any questions on out-of-state overnight travel?
Just in his car.
They will do a rental
Oh.
van. Okay. And then the next, if I'm right, the next one is camps. Is that correct? Okay.
Yes.
So basically, we'll start to see quite a few of these start trickling in. These are all summer camps. We got the Highland High School football and volleyball camps listed there, and then the Century High School boys basketball camp in April. So we like to get ahead of the game on these. If you notice the Highland High School girls volleyball camp, and that expense there is, they're bringing the instructor and camp to the school. So that way, we do not have to have kids going off and taking care of board and room and all that kind of good stuff. So they're bringing the camp to the program. And they're anticipating 70 participants, so that's why that's quite a bit there. And then the last thing, we don't have any questions. Do you have any questions on camps? Last thing is the schedules. And as if you can see the weather, I anticipate these schedules being changed frequently, but we are starting sports in a couple weeks for our spring sports. So track, tennis, not golf this year because we had golf in the fall. Baseball, softball, all will start in a couple weeks here at the end of this month, 1st of March. And so those schedules are all listed there. As soon as we plowed the tennis court and tracks off. Any questions about those?
We don't have an indoor tennis court somewhere?
Oh, yeah, we're getting those domes right up. And there will be flexibility on those. We always have at the spring. There's lots of events happening in April and May.
Yes.
Okay?
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Okay, next on the item is bid awards by Jonathan Balls. Bid wars, yeah. Bid awards.
Good evening, board members. 'Tis the season to announce some and ask for approval for some bid projects that you'd previously approved in our capital improvement plan. First one is for the replacement boiler at Wilcox Elementary. And again, just as a reminder that if a project goes over 50,000, we are required to solicit a formal bid process where we put out specs and advertise. A lot of times this requires a bid walkthrough so they get more visual and so forth. And then we have a bid opening, and that are some requirements there. This was, again, 6 vendors were invited to bid. We actually had a bid back from one vendor. However, that one vendor was disqualified because this company did not assign the addendum. We made a change to the specs that they have to acknowledge that they received that, and that unfortunately was not signed. So that means we didn't have any bidders, so that means now we go out to solicit quotes. Again, it's the same number of people, so we solicited from 4 vendors and received quotes back from 2. And one was actually the one as the bidder. And so you'll see the lowest bid there from Rocky Mountain Boiler. So it's our ask of the board this evening that motion to award the bid to Rocky Mountain Boiler for the boiler replacement at Wilcox Elementary.
What's the difference between a bid and a quote?
Really, only the process, really. A quote is us going out to see, again, even though 6 were invited to bid, but we only went out to 4 vendors because we knew the other 2 for sure wouldn't be able to even submit anything. It's really just the process. Again, these are taxpayer dollars, and so a bid process announces it 2 weeks in the paper, hey, school district is bidding on boilers. If you'd like to bid, please come. It's all the same, that the numbers should be the same. It's just the process that we go through.
Okay.
And again, by statute, if it's under 50,000, we can just get quotes, whom we feel that the very best there. So, okay, the next one again. With some HVAC equipment, a little bit for Pocatello High School, and then again tied in with the boiler for Wilcox Elementary. Again, 12 vendors were asked to bid. We received just one bid from one vendor. Again, we surely do appreciate all of our vendors. Mechanical Solutions here in Pocatello submitted the bid there. Then you saw that even though there wasn't one bid, that still came below our budget that we had put there in the capital improvement plan. So we were happy with that. But again, it's our motion ask from the board that we approve Mechanical Solutions for this HVAC projects in the district.
I'm just gonna ask one thing. Can we do, ESSER funds for these 2 things?
Absolutely, yes, yes.
It'd be nice to be done with that.
Yes. Yep.
I have to keep recording it.
Correct. Yep, we have until, well, it's September 24th, and then there's a little bit extra time after that. But yes, so we still have about 18 months, but definitely this will all be yes, sir.
Yeah, one comment was people saying that they heard districts recording it and not spending it. We're like, why would you do that?
Correct. No, that doesn't make sense. The ones in our region that I've talked to and around the state, yeah, they're doing their very best to try to spend it as best we can. The next one on the agenda, if I may, Mr. Chairman, is an ask to donate some district property. And this is the few remaining items left at Daniel Funeral Home. One are 22 pews that are very original to that building. Even we found old pictures from, we think, the 30s that had these pews in them. But again, our friends they're called Friends of the Brady Memorial Chapel. Through the city, through the Pocatello Historical Commission, we'd like to donate those to them. Again, the value there was just our Alan Spidell and I trying to figure out how much these might be worth and so forth. But again, we feel that the chapel there and the cemetery could definitely benefit from these period pews there.
Are you gonna is that where they're going, is to the cemetery chapel?
Yes.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. I guess it's called the Brady Memorial Chapel.
Okay, yeah. They don't have pews in there right now?
Good question.
I don't think they do.
Do they?
I don't,
I
yeah.
was thinking they did.
You should, they were so excited, like Christmas Day excited. Even though they needed a little bit of work, and, a little cleaning, of course.
Yeah.
But they were very excited
Oh, cool. That'd be a good
that the
place
board
for
would be consider this.
That'd be a good place for them.
Yeah.
Mr. Bowles, will you just elaborate a little bit on that process and why we took that path?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yep,
Thank
yep. And that's down in your memo. Again, Idaho Code 33601 says again that we can authorize the transfer or conveyance of real or personal property to any city, county, state of Idaho, hospital district, library district, and so forth. And so that's the is that what you?
As far as the historical committee, the society, we toured them through.
Oh, yes.
Why we did it that way rather than look at an auction type.
Oh, yes.
Situation.
Yeah, that's, and again, that's kind of what we felt, again, we're gonna benefit from this property, but we really didn't want to profit from that. So we did invite the members of the Pocatello Historical Commission that were kind of with the Brady Memorial Chapel. We asked them to come in and look at and see if they would use this. Because again, there was a little bit of value there, but we felt like rather than auctioning off this equipment or property from the district, we felt it would be better serve our community, to stay in the community and, last long and benefit the Pocatello, City of Pocatello, Pocatello Historical Commission, and that Brady Memorial Chapel. Is that kind of?
Yeah, we had some calls, probably 3 calls for personal
thank you.
inquiries
Yeah.
to walk through the property, whether they wanted it for their personal collections or secondhand stores or what have you. And so we opted to go this other route, to just ask the historical preservation group to walk through to see if there was anything of value that might be displayed or, put in some sort of a museum, or in this case, used for a specific purpose in the Brady Chapel. And so that way we could, the previous owner took a great deal of, the little mementos, or right down to the crown molding, really. Yes.
I heard the front door was a
And
wanted item.
So the front door is without the glass, and so it has been talked about, but I think, we might, we might remove the door before it comes down, just in case, we do something in the future with that, but we feel these are the 2 items, when I get to the second item, that we can donate and that will benefit others. But,
Yeah, I thought somebody had asked for it too.
Yeah.
yeah, I did talk to one individual, and they said, they don't, again, it's a 4-foot door. It'd be a very unique thing there, but, again, we're just kind of looking at these 2 things kind of to donate. The second item would be for some components of the cooler that was in the funeral home to our Bannock County corner. And they currently do not have a cooler. We tried, and we will try to salvage as many of the components as we can, but they were excited to have those, and then obviously they would get the remaining components to satisfy their needs there.
So would they just go in and take them out themselves?
Or they would have they'll probably have a HVAC guy come
Right.
and take them out. Yeah, and take
So we're not gonna do that in-house?
No. We'll be there to make sure, that they're there and, can get everything they need.
Right.
But no, they will, the district will not incur any expense in any of these donations. So
I
again,
think
it's our
it's a great idea.
recommendation that we approve that donation there.
Okay.
Okay, the next one is, it's another process. Again, this is our project for the Highland High School football field, and the soccer field, and the band field, to basically put that from natural grass into turf. And again, this is well over $50,000, but our policy allows us to use the national vendors. And so basically, the bidding process is done by a national company. In this case, it's a national cooperative called Sourcewell, that they actually do the bidding process for us and then award the bids. And so we have all the documentation online, and where we get maybe 12, they get, 10s to and sometimes even hundreds of bidders that they vet and they go through and they approve. This is the same, we'd like to use this national bid to approve Hellas Construction. They are the ones that did Lookout Field. They're at Pocatello High Stadium, or Lookout Stadium. They're at Hawthorne Middle School. And they did a great job for us there. And to be consistent between the two high schools and eventually the third high school as well, that we'd like to use this, this Hellas Construction. And so we're asking approval to use Hellas Construction in the amount of $1,288,930 to be able to enter an agreement with them and to complete the turf at Highland High School.
Is that for this summer?
That will be this summer.
Well, that will be this summer.
That will be this summer, yeah.
And when's Sentry going to be? Next summer?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we would plan, and again, we'll work with the Outdoor Facility Committee and the SIP
Right.
Committee and bring that recommendation to you, but
Okay.
at least right now in the crystal ball, that's what I would
Right.
say.
Okay, well, I had it in my mind we were doing Sentry first, but
Okay, yeah.
that's okay.
They wanted to switch it to it was their choice, they wanted not the press box, but the concession dealer first.
Correct, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, so that's correct.
That's right.
And then the last agenda item, again, last board meeting, you approved, or approved to start negotiations for the architect for the PV Tech building, and that was through JHS Architects in Pocatello. And so Superintendent Howell and I kind of went back and forth with them a few times, and we settled on, we felt a very fair and good rate, and that's about 6.5% of the construction cost, which is a very good rate. And then there'll be up to $4,000 worth of reimbursable costs for printing, for permits, and so forth like that. But in your packet, there is the AIA document, which is standard for. Well, I've just used it with architects. I assume we could use it with other ones, but architects use the AIA document here. And so it is our ask of the board that we enter and sign this agreement, the AIA document with JHS Architects. I will report that that we, with this in motion and with your approval from last board meeting, we had our first meeting, and we actually should see some preliminary sketches even this week that we're kind of anxious to see and start this process. And of course, we will keep you involved in that as well.
Cool.
Just for our own, I guess, education.
Sure.
Can maybe, I don't know if we could have some kind of a meeting with, just to see kind of future ideas, so that before we are given it to approve, we kind of understand.
For the PV Tech building?
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So we
Well, that's what you were talking about, right?
I think we could do that. Yes.
Because, I mean, it would just really look like vines. I mean, I don't want to vote on something that I know nothing about.
Sure, no, I understand. Yeah, I think this is
Absolutely.
such a big project, and it'll be great for our community. We'll definitely have probably a work session that we can, bring.
Special meeting.
Yep,
One or
speci-
the other, yeah.
Special meeting or a work session that we can show you some of these,
Around it,
have some,
to be involved too, because, yeah. it would be
Absolutely.
really nice to know kind of what is out there, because I know there is stuff out there that other schools in Idaho are doing,
correct.
and I only know just a little bits and pieces of it.
You bet. And I will report, Ms. Naffs was with us, at the table at that first meeting. She provided great input. I know that the architect actually went and toured our current CTE facilities in each of our high schools, so he could get used to, or get to know those programs. So I feel really good about our process. And so, of course, he's gonna, he'll bring in some wide concepts that we'll start narrowing down, but definitely we'll involve you with that.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
I'm anxious to see him too.
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay, next on our agenda is the Infinite Campus IC Technology Department upgrade by Carl Smart.
I'm not used to sitting here and he's pontificating from the stand over there. All right. Just a couple things we can mention about our first item on the agenda tonight is Infinite Campus. We talked a month ago about Infinite Campus. We don't have another submission, not Infinite Campus, IC. We don't have another submission until next month. But what we have submitted is going to drive what we are going to see in our February payment. I looked this afternoon when I was here earlier, and there's still no February 15th payment data sitting there, so they're going to wait till the 15th. So we will have more information for you next month, and actually we'll use the information we gather from that payment, I'm assuming tomorrow, to do some budget adjustments that we'll bring to you next month. So we'll adjust our budget to balance out to with what the state will actually look like they will fund us.
Can I ask you a question about that?
Sure.
I remember the last time you talked about it, you said that they were going to charge us an ongoing, was it a yearly fee? And they hadn't said that before when we paid the $1 million?
Who's the they you were talking about?
Are you talking about the state insurance?
No, not yet.
Oh.
No, this is just the state, our funding formula from the state.
Oh, okay, sorry. Did not
Now,
listen.
what you're talking about is something very different through the insurance plan. And because it's not on the agenda tonight, we probably shouldn't discuss it.
Sorry, I take it
Yeah,
back.
but he could answer your question. Yeah, Clark can just give you a call tomorrow.
Yeah, if you
Follow up
want,
with
if you want to talk about it, we can certainly talk about it.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's just, yeah, okay. Sorry, and now that you say that, I do realize what you're doing.
And I will just, the information that we talked about it with our legislative team. Senator Guthrie actually reached out to the OGI and got us a response back, so I could even share that with you as well.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Oh, good. I remember you talking about that.
Just another couple of things here. Cameras are still in the process. I know they've had some people in the buildings looking at placement for cameras for security. We already have security in the building, so if somebody's listening in tonight and saying, "Oh, there's no security there," there is security there. We're just upgrading. So they're still in the process of doing that throughout all of our buildings. And just to let you know, our Skyward transition, it's now down to less than a year that we're supposed to go live with those folks. We are supposed to have a new database that we can start playing in over the next 3 or 4 weeks, and so we will see how that goes, see how the transition looks as they start converting our data. The second item in my section of the agenda here is the emergency school closure, and there were actually 4 documents in the I don't even know what to call it, in the site, and the original 2 got wrapped into the addendum. So we're only going to work with the addendum copies of that of the emergency school closure resolution, and there's a data sheet there as well. So we can basically ignore the original ones and just deal with the addendum ones. And this is required by the state. Every time you have a school closure, an emergency school closure, they want to know how many hours of instruction were missed by the students for that particular day. And so you'll see that outlined in the 2 different lines, the cold days in January and the snow closure day today. And this has been typically used to adjust or so they would not ding you on your average daily attendance. And right now, that's not really an issue because they're working off of membership, but we still do it, and so because it is required. We kind of aha moment a year ago as we were discussing this, that why when we don't ADA right now. So, but we do membership, but we still have to. They still want to know how many hours of instruction were lost, and I think that's more the case here than anything else. So. You will be asked tonight to approve these what's the word I'm looking for here, the resolution.
Mhm.
Then we'll send this off to the state probably tomorrow and get it taken care of. And that concludes my section of the agenda tonight.
Okay, thank you, Carl, appreciate it. Okay, next on the agenda is Human Resources by Brenda Miner.
Good evening, nice to see you. Mine tonight is just a little bit of kind of a cleanup on policy. If you look at it, this is for 7202 and it's teacher evaluation policy. What this is and the reason behind this is when we started with Frontline, which is a computerized version that the state actually is paying for currently, it just didn't fit with where the policy was as far as like some of the sections, you know, like a C, D, E, or F, you know, those kinds of things, just kind of some language. And so if you look at it, those are the pieces that are mainly in there that deal with anything with the language. One of the pieces that I just wanted to bring your attention just real quick, and at the bottom of the first page when it says IDAPA rule also requires a third measure, and it talks about student growth. We always include the student achievement now, and there's always, we talked about the parent input as a factor. It gives us the opportunity to have 3 different pieces. We still can have parent input, but we can have a portfolio, which is what our teachers are doing, and that's the 3rd line down, Deanna, from in the bottom paragraph, okay, where it says about parent input. Do you see that? On the very first page of the policy. So I just wanted to make sure and kind of clarify that when it said input shall be included and that was taken out about parent. That's still a factor. That's just one of 3 now that can be used. Right, so we use the Danielson framework and they focus on domains 2 and 3 and then they do the final evaluation. So just the logistics of it looks a little different, but as far as still being able to have parent input, student voice, and then student achievement through their portfolios is what we use now. So it's a little bit more inclusive of a packet than just parent input. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, appreciate that. Okay, next we'll turn the time over to Superintendent Dr. Howe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So tonight, of course, we all made it to our meeting and appreciate Mrs. Oliver being by phone tonight. And then in addition to that, we have some student hearings scheduled for tomorrow night, 2 hearings with a couple of reports as well. And then you will see we have the Simplot breakfast scheduled for 2, but if we have 3, we're going to go ahead and notice it. So if you'd like to attend, just, I think a couple of you already let Renee and Mrs. Fisher know. So we'll plan for that. Monday, February 20th and the 21st, we have an ISBA Day on the Hill scheduled for a Boise trip to have a couple of workshops presented by ISBA and then to attend the House Education and Senate Education Committee meetings on those 2 days. And so unless the weather turns really bad, we'll plan for those days to be in Boise. And then, as you can see, February 23rd, District Curriculum Committee meeting. And then we have Key Communicators, February 28th. Mrs. Fisher and I were already working on the agenda, so I think we have that prepared. Student discipline hearings, March 1st, so we're every 2 weeks with those, just on your calendar. And March 7th, proposed special meeting work session because of spring break, and that pushes us up in the calendar a little bit, but we're asking the board to consider that special meeting on the 7th. So if you'll hold that as a placeholder, 3:30 in the afternoon. And then we'll have some school visits, and you can see your various visits. And so it looks like Mr. Balls, Mr. Watson, and Mrs. Pettit will be taking you around on those particular days. Community Prevention Committee meeting takes us out to March 14th, along with our regular board meeting. Again, student discipline hearings coming up on Wednesday the 19th. Just hold on your schedule. And then, gosh, that takes us out almost a month, and then we'll have spring break in there the 3rd week of March. Also for you tonight, I have a legislative update, and the information was really by way of capital notes. That's how we can keep on top of that, as well as Idaho Education News does a kind of a daily recap of all the things that are happening. So if you have a chance, that's also a good resource to see what's happening on a daily basis. Just a couple that I want to highlight for you tonight. The school bond elections that we typically have in our district around the March timeframe, but in other districts, they also utilize an August timeframe. There are 2 or 3 different bills that they are trying to eliminate those dates. And so, as you know, school ISBA is opposing that, and really on our behalf, because March date allows us to prepare our budgets so that we can bring to you for adoption in June, so that we can start our fiscal years in July. And so if we lose that opportunity, then that pushes us into a little bit it just makes it more complicated, because we have to prepare a budget not knowing whether or not we've passed an election till May. So it kind of comes down to the last minute preparing that budget for you. So we prefer more time to plan accordingly. And so there are a couple of those bills. The financial literacy is also a suggestion or a proposal, really, to include that in our high school graduation requirements. And the Idaho School Board supports that. And in fact, I believe it went through the House 69-0.
We had a question this morning in Education Committee. Meeting. Is that can be just incorporated into classes that are currently offered, right? It's
Yes,
not
that's
That's what they're
separate.
talking about.
Mm-hmm, yes,
That's what I thought.
yeah.
That's separate.
But then, there was, I think a couple people wondered if it was requiring a new class.
My understanding by way of the bill is that it can be incorporated into like an economics class.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So another one is the national motto to be displayed in schools. So if a school were to receive a donation of the national motto, "In God We Trust," then they would have to display that in a prominent place. Election days, again, that one's in there. Abuse of school employees, and so right now, it would clarify constitutionally vague language that exists in statute, and so it would become a little more harsh, in my opinion. Self-directed learners and extended learning opportunities, those were 2 bills that moved forward in the past 2 years. And so the difference there would be to say that only students who attend public school full-time. And so Idaho School Boards opposes that. I'm not quite sure, I've not delved into that enough to know the opposition behind that.
And what was the name of that one?
That is Senate Bill 1015, Self-Directed Learners and Extended Learning Opportunities. So I need to do a little bit more research on that one. The one that is a little bit, more than a little bit concerning, is the Freedom in Education Savings Accounts. And I looked through the bill, I've read it a few times now, but some of the language here, which when we're talking about accountability, essentially it's non-existent in this bill. And the language reads, this chapter does not permit any government agency to exercise control or supervision over any non-public school or homeschooling.
Yeah.
That's right in there, along with a qualified school shall not be required to alter its creed, policies, admission policy, or curriculum. So there is no oversight whatsoever in this. And again, that is very concerning.
I think
And
what's interesting is that that's the homeschoolers, the Association of Homeschoolers that's what they want, you know?
Yeah,
They're
we don't-
opposing it because they think it's gonna mean government intervention on them, which they don't want. So it's almost like they're opposing it unless it's ensured that there will be no oversight. They don't want the oversight.
They want money.
They just want the money.
yeah.
The other thing I thought that was interesting, so I listened a little bit to the committee meeting, is that the initial target is only about 6,000 students that apply for it, which again, seems very narrow.
Well, yes.
Or 65, is that?
which was up from the original proposal.
Yeah, it just felt like this was gonna be a way for those who are already in private schools to get their
Get money,
private school
yeah.
paid for, and for only a small fraction of I mean, it'll start small, but the intent to roll out bigger. Anyway, sorry. to
Yes,
interrupt.
no, you're right, and in fact,
It was
it
very
would,
enlightening. to me.
they anticipate more than 100 million.
Yeah.
And, yeah,
I have
so,
Yeah, those education savings accounts don't really mean people are putting money in
No,
to save. It means it's just coming out of the general fund.
yes,
which
exactly.
is, You know,
Which
and
takes
how
money
you
away
could
from
call
us.
that a savings.
Uh-huh,
well, they claimed today, I mean, and again, this is probably Courtney, the things that were kind of curious is they said that the cost was as if you were getting a 2-for-1, that the cost was actually cheaper going this direction than if they were in the public school, and I don't know.
I-
Anyway, there's a
the-
lot of questions.
right,
a lot
what
of-
I had read was it was about approximately 80% of what would typically be granted by way of a student. So I don't know, the 2-for-1 sounds
Yeah,
like, yeah, too good to be
I
true.
have another concern. I had two, now I have three. One is that there's no requirements for special education and none of that disabilities with this money. There's no requirements to provide that.
Mhm.
And then the other one is, how would we safeguard this not incentivizing people with nefarious purposes that just want the money and they'll just get their kids home?
Again, no oversight or accountability, and it's very interesting that it, I mean, specifically spells that out in that piece of proposed legislation, so,
I have one more thing to make.
You'll have
Right.
a chance to talk to those folks.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, we need some answers on this.
Yeah.
We need-
yes, yeah.
There was one.
Those are just the few I wanted to point out to you, but, oh, yes.
I did remember, I'm sorry.
Hmm.
We own our own business, and we have to account for everything we write off,
Mm-hmm.
down to the last penny. So this just does not make any sense if they were to account textbook, whatever. And it's not saying what's in the textbook, it's just textbook, here's the receipt. You know, trip, field trip, here's the receipt.
Uh-huh.
Like, if a business has to do that, I don't understand.
There was one that we brought up this morning about the changing of the timing for, was it the levies from 12 months to 20? Do you remember that one, Courtney? We were gonna ask Jonathan about that.
21 months.
ISBA is opposed to that, and I don't know enough about it to be able to answer that question.
Have you followed that one, Mr. Balls?
Paying down the bonds from 21 months to 14 months.
And it, and they're saying it's a cost savings to the taxpayers because of less interest that they would.
Well, that's what we came to
Oh, yeah,
that.
that's what we were
That's what we
assuming.
assumed, is it was because of a reduction in interest payments,
Yeah,
but
because like Courtney
I don't know if
said.
that's one. you-
Let us follow up, and Mr. Balls can send out an email.
Yeah, and I was
and
curious if that would be problematic,
10:55? Okay.
if that would be problematic if we would need more time to pay back.
It's great if you can pay it back early, but not because you have to.
Right.
And that's
Mhm.
what I was wondering, if that mandate would cause some problems. Anyway.
Okay.
Okay.
That's it for me, Mr.
Thank you,
Chair.
Dr. Howe.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
that. Okay, next on the agenda is public and written comment pertinent to the agenda items. I haven't received anything, so we'll move on to action items. First on the agenda for action items is to approve revised procedure 6402P, textbook adoption. Is there not a motion?
Yeah, I hereby move that the board approve revised procedure 6402P, textbook adoption as presented.
Is there a second? Any discussion?
My only comment is whether we can put some wording about that this is not the norm.
Oh, right.
That this is, I don't know if it's, because the way it's written, it feels very, that we could do this for everything, even though I know that's not your intent, but maybe something that
So
this,
with that revision, and also that revision, I forgot to say that too, with the revision that it will be noticed to the parents that this is
a public
going on.
notice.
And I think we were going to pick that one up for sure under item B on the Spanish textbook adoption, but we could also look at including it in the overall, so,
In the actual procedure,
I think we're both, I think we both made a mistake.
procedure.
No.
We're talking about the next,
we'll just make sure we can add it to
the specialized, the special ed, or, yeah.
is that what you're thinking, Ms.
So
Clark? for
I just
some-
wanted in the way you have the procedure written, that, you know, somehow, you guys are better wordsmiths than me, but somehow make it that this is the exception, not the norm, to make the special. Yeah. I mean, I know that's what your intent is, but I think just to make that clear. Does that, maybe I'm not being clear.
I'm following. Do you have it?
I follow
Ms.
it,
Johnson?
like, I just don't know
I
what
just-
happens now, like, we have to get it approved.
No, I think right now.
We're gonna approve it with the
if that's
change.
what we add, it's just language that.
And it's separate from the Spanish one. I mean, we can take care of that one tonight, but I'm just thinking just in the,
You could make a motion to approve the revised procedure with the addition of language.
And then we'll just add it, and then that way we can.
Yes.
get
you
What
say
she
it-
said.
You say it with the.
Yes.
addition of, but
what
you
Renee
say it
just
like-
said.
So you want to reword the motion?
Yeah, so I move that the board approve the revised procedure with the addition, with some clarifying language.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion is passed. Okay, next on the agenda is approval of modified Spanish textbook adoption committee process. Is there a motion?
I move that we approve the Spanish adoption, provided we add language that will email all the parents to alert them, let them know the dates, and invite them to participate and let them know the dates. Whether they're selected or not, it's no guarantee. It's just to invite them and to let them know the dates of the open meeting. Is that okay?
Okay, is there a second?
We've got it.
Okay.
Yeah, we can
I'll
do it.
second.
Okay, is there any more, is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion passed. Okay. Next on the agenda is to approve the alternate route for graduation requests. Is there a motion?
I move that we approve the alternate route for graduation request.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passed. Next on the agenda is approve the early graduation request. Is there a motion?
I hereby move the board approve the early graduation request as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passed. And next on the agenda is approve the out-of-state overnight travel request. Is there a motion?
Hereby move that the board approve the out-of-state overnight travel request as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion passed. Approved. Next on the agenda is to approve the camp request. Is there a motion?
I hereby move that we approve the camp request as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion passed. Next on the agenda is to approve the spring athletic schedule inclusive of travel. Is there a motion?
I hereby move that the board approve spring athletic schedule inclusive of travel as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion passed. Next is to approve the award bids. Is there a motion?
I hereby move that the board award the following bids as presented: the boiler for Wilcox and the HVAC for Wilcox and PHS.
Is there a second?
A second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passed. Next is to grant permission to donate district property. Is there a motion?
I hereby move that the board, I'm sorry, did I interrupt you?
No, I said, is there a motion?
I hereby move that the board grant permission to donate district property to the Valley County Coroner and to Brady Chapel as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passed. Next is to authorize the use of national vendors. Is there a motion?
I hereby move that the board authorize the use of national vendors, Ellis Construction, Cedar Park, Texas, and enter into necessary agreements, complete the turf field and project at Highland High School as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passed. Okay, next on the agenda is adopt the emergency school closure resolution. Is there a motion?
Oh, we gotta do the,
Architects.
I did jump over that, didn't I? Okay, next on the agenda is approve the JHS Architect PA agreement for the PV Tech project. Is there a motion?
hereby move that the board approve the agreement between the Pocatello Chubbuck School District 25 and JHS Architects PA for the PV Tech project as presented.
Is there a second? Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passed. Next is to approve the adopt the emergency school closure resolution. Is there a motion?
I hereby move that the board adopt the emergency school closure resolution as if read into minutes.
Is there a second? Okay, is there any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passed. Next is to hear on first reading, policy 7202, teacher supervision and evaluation. Is there a motion?
I hereby move the board here on first reading the below listed policy as presented, policy 7202, teacher supervision and evaluation of certificated and professional staff.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, is there discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed. Next on the agenda is I'll look for, to adjourn this meeting. Is there a motion?
I move we adjourn.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That adjourns this meeting.